In December 1808, the monthly newspaper of Boston's Anthology Society, which later became known as the Boston Athenaeum, ran a short review of a recently published pamphlet. Although its author had been motivated by disapproval of Thomas Jefferson's administration, this wasn't your typical piece of political commentary. Instead, Memoir of the Northern Kingdom was a work of speculative fiction claiming to have been published in 1901 and written in 1872. The reviewer, William Tudor, acknowledged the pioneering qualities of this 48-page booklet without quite praising it. This is a production generated by the temper of the times. The pretended author, whose barbarous name it is too much trouble to copy, undertakes, towards the close of this century, to give an account to his son of the troubles which had previously taken place in the United States, and which ended by the formation of a southern and northern kingdom, while the middle states constituted a republic. Were we to occupy ourselves in speculations of this kind, we should not be disposed to predict the future fate of the country exactly as the author has done, even if we admitted the notion of the destruction of the present Union. The idea of anticipating the events of futurity is not new, but this opens a wide field for ingenuity and political sagacity if it be lawful even to think on the subject. The style of this publication is very good, but it has been too hastily written to preserve more than a momentary existence. The author possesses of affect the candor which is natural when treating about the political characters of past times. The pamphlet's author, a Congregationalist minister named William Jenks, had used Williamson Johnsonites as his barbarous pseudonym. More strikingly, while getting a lot of things wrong about the outcome, he had still shown remarkable prescience in anticipating the Civil War by 53 years. Memoir of the Northern Kingdom billed itself as a historical account detailing the disintegration of the United States due to the secession of southern states, which had adopted a monarchical system supported by France. Purporting to write from the vantage point of 1872, but actually writing in 1808, Jenks noted that political dissensions ran high, and there were men of the party called Democratic who openly asserted they would prefer a French emperor in America to a federal president. Such insinuations were not lost. The French generals and those of that nation who, pretending disgust at the proceedings of the emperor, feigned to seek an asylum in America, were now sanguine in their views. They gradually offered their services to the administration and were favorably received. Intrigue indeed effected a choice of such men as officers, and at length a body of troops so officered obtained an establishment in the country. Virginia, as a state, found protection against her Negro population in the troops before mentioned, which, for obvious reasons, were quartered in the South. She had ever been indifferent to the federal union, except when she herself was the acknowledged head of it. And now, finding that the partiality her citizens had manifested toward the French alienated the confidence of the northern states, she set up by her writers the hue and cry of British influence. This vision more or less makes sense if you keep in mind that in the early years of the Republic, Republicans led by Jefferson were generally pro-French, while the Federalists saw the British model as more appropriate for the United States. This was especially true of John Adams, who, unlike Jefferson, was disturbed by the excesses of the French Revolution from the outset. Adams even wrote and published a controversial essay in 1791, while he was serving as vice president, that argued for making government offices hereditary. Summarizing Adams, historian Gordon S. Wood writes, "Nearly all the nations of the earth had eventually given all power to hereditary monarchs, and they had done so after they had tried all possible experiments of elections of governors and senates. They had found so much emulation in every heart, so many rivalries among the principal men, such divisions, confusions, and miseries, that they concluded that hereditary succession was attended with fewer evils than frequent elections." Adams agreed with that perspective, saying emphatically that this was the true answer and the only one. Interestingly, Jenks's narrator singles out two books of Adams's political writings, together with Supreme Court Chief Justice John Marshall's 5-volume biography of George Washington, as the only works of national interest and importance written in the times that preceded the civil wars and troubles of my country. And in Jenks's narrative, while the South was coming under French rule, the northeastern states had joined forces with Canada under the rule of an English prince. Jenks may have had in mind the Duke of Kent, a son of George III and the future father of Queen Victoria. However, republicanism had not totally died out in North America, since the Republic of Illinois had emerged in the western region, attracting Quakers, what Jenks called sober, frugal, industrious Germans, and all who preferred the ancient state of affairs to any innovation. These immigrants consisted of persons of every condition, and their motion was continually westward, for the western country increased greatly in value and importance. And it is far more probable that there will be the last stand of American republicanism. Nor should I be surprised if, notwithstanding present appearances and the animosity of the northern and southern courts, they should yet find their interest in uniting their force to exterminate its last traces. Remember, this is Jenks writing in 1808, but pretending to look back from the vantage point of 1872. Cleverly, in a preface purportedly written by the narrator's son, he gives us a peek at the view from 1901 as he imagined it. 45 years of bickering or open warfare might have convinced the Illinois Republicans that it were far better to renounce, as did their ancestors, the phantom of a government which they have not virtue to protect. For the Republic is a prey to the dissensions of her ambitious chiefs. Confiding in the population or territory that they have acquired or maintained, animated by an ancient grudge, and still more by a desire of attracting to themselves individually the management of the state, in the midst of such convulsions, these factious demagogues, for such must they be named, are for protracting a war which puts to the proof all the mildness and moderation of our sovereign, a war too which cannot end but in their subjugation. Nor can this event be far distant. The immense power of the northern and the preponderating interests of the southern kingdom point out for each of them a direct path to their object. Nor is His Virginian Majesty so inattentive to the security of his frontiers, or so fond of repose and quiet, as to omit any method of reducing such an obstinate enemy. The league, too, which has of late been happily formed between the two monarchies, and in which the editor is well known to have borne an honorable part, must teach these enthusiasts that it is vain to resist. As horrific as the actual Civil War was, Jenks's vision may have been even more dystopian, since he was essentially predicting that North America would replicate Europe's centuries-long pattern of endless war, along with the failure of republicanism. As it turned out, he was writing only a few years before the War of 1812 began prompting calls for secession not from the South, but from the North. We'll explore that history in an upcoming video, so make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss it. Jenks lived long enough to compare his predictions to the actual Civil War, dying in 1866. As always, I've got additional context and a companion post at my website, where you can also sign up to get the post delivered for free to your inbox. If you like these videos enough to want to help me make more of them, I'd be super thankful if you click the super thanks button below. And help this little channel keep growing by hitting that like button, commenting with your thoughts about William Jenks's vision of the future, and sharing the video with anyone you think might be interested. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.